These are 9 science-backed ways to improve brain energy. Starting with the one almost everybody ignores, weightlifting. I know that sounds weird because when people think about brain energy, they think about sleep, they think about coffee, maybe omega-3s or some expensive supplement. But lifting weights, that sounds like something you do for your chest, not your brain. Your muscles are basically an endocrine organ. When they contract under load, they release signals into your bloodstream, and those signals talk to the rest of your body, including your brain. One of those signals is called BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. People call BDNF the fertilizer of the brain. BDNF helps neurons survive. It helps strengthen synapses and support neuroplasticity, which is your brain's ability to change, learn, and adapt. Now, a quick correction, because people online get this wrong all the time. BDNF is not only increased when lifting weights. Aerobic exercise can also increase BDNF. So the point is not that lifting weights is the only way. The point is that resistance training is one powerful way to trigger that system. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology found that BDNF increased after an acute bout of resistance exercise, both after high intensity and high volume training. But the bigger reason that lifting matters for brain energy is metabolic. Resistance training improves insulin sensitivity. This means that your body gets better at handling glucose, sugar, and since your brain is extremely sensitive to energy supply, better sugar control means a more stable brain. So when you're lifting weights, you're not just building muscles, you're upgrading the body that your brain depends on. And you do not need to become a bodybuilder. Start with 2 to 3 full body sessions per week, push something, pull something, and remember to train legs. That's it, keep it simple. And that alone will give your brain a better biological environment to work in. Now, once you understand that lifting weights and exercising is very important for your brain, you're ready to move on to the next step. Number 2, your brain is extremely fatty. I'm sorry if that sounds rude, okay? But it is true. Your brain is fatty. A huge part of your brain's dry weight is fat. And one of the most important fats is called DHA. DHA is built into the membranes of your neurons. And the membranes of neurons are not just there for packaging. They affect how signals move, how receptors work, and how efficiently your brain cells communicate. So when your grandma says that fish is good for your brain, she's kind of right. There is a real biology behind it. And the best way to get DHA is through fatty fish, like salmon and sardines. Basically, if the fish smells, it's good. Now, I want to be accurate here. Omega-3 is not magic. Taking fish oil will not make you wake up speaking 6 languages. The evidence depends on dose, age, and what outcome you measure. But the honest claim is strong enough. DHA is structurally important for the brain, and getting enough of it is one of the most basic nutritional ways to support brain function. Now, DHA helps build the brain, but the next one, it changes how fuel moves through your body almost immediately. Number 3, walk after meals. And this is probably the easiest one on the list. And it also might be the fastest one to actually feel. Here's what most people do, and including me as well. They eat lunch, they sit down and open up their laptop and continue their day. And after like 45 minutes, your brain feels sluggish. And that is not random, because after a meal, especially a meal with high carbohydrates, your blood glucose rises. So naturally, your insulin levels rises to move glucose out of the blood. But if the curve gets too aggressive, you spike and then you dip. But you can actually fix this problem pretty simple. You can walk for 10 to 20 minutes, because when your muscles contract, they can pull glucose from the blood. So instead of getting a glucose spike then a crash, the curve becomes much smoother. And a 2023 systematic review and meta-analysis found that walking after meals improves post-meal glucose control, especially when done soon after eating, which is basically confirms what I've just told you. And let me just be clear, this is not about burning calories or getting a six-pack. This is about using your muscles as a glucose sink, so you don't get a crazy spike and then a crash. So just simple, eat, walk, and then come back sharper. If you're a student or an entrepreneur or anyone who needs deep work after lunch, this is one of the highest return habits that you can steal today. But glucose after meals is only one part of the story. Because if your brain energy crashes all day, the next thing is probably the reason. Which leads me to number 4. So most people eat in a way that creates unstable energy. They skip breakfast, they drink coffee, and eat something sweet. Now let's be clear, there is nothing wrong with drinking coffee or skipping breakfast. Most days I don't eat breakfast and I drink coffee. But if you do it that way and you break your fast, or the first thing you eat is very, very sweet, you will experience what we talked about earlier, which is a sugar crash. And then you will feel tired, and then you'll have to eat something sugary again, and then you will experience a sugar crash again. Your brain depends heavily on a steady energy supply. So if your meals are built around refined sugar, your focus is going to feel unpredictable. And let's be clear, the goal is not to be scared of carbs. I love carbs. Carbs are not evil. Actually, it's one of the fastest sources for energy that you can have. The goal is to try to limit eating carbs alone, with no protein, no fiber, and no fat, to slow down the absorption. Like meals with only sugar, if you're not using it to go out and train, can hit fast, but they often leave fast as well, leaving you experiencing a sugar crash. So instead, try to have a meal with high protein, high fats, and high fibers, and then you can add carbs. Carbs are not bad. And once you make those changes and your fuel is stable, the next question becomes, do you even have the raw materials to make the chemical that drive focus? Which brings us to number 5. Most people think that protein is only for the gym bros. Protein you get if you want to become big and strong. But protein is not just for muscles. Protein gives you amino acids, and amino acids are the raw materials for neurotransmitters. Dopamine and noradrenaline, which are important for motivation and attention, are made from tyrosine. ACH, acetylcholine, which is important for attention and memory, depends on if choline is there or not. If your diet is consistently low in protein, you're not giving your brain the building blocks that it needs. A good target for most active people is 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day. And you do not need to obsess over it. Just make sure that most meals have real sources of protein. And it could be anything. It could be eggs, chickens, yogurt, beef. Protein will give your brain the raw material that it needs to function properly. But nothing will help you if your sleep is terrible. Which leads me to point number 6. Everybody knows that sleep matters. So I'm not gonna spend 5 minutes saying that sleep is important. You already know that. The part that people are missing is timing. You can sleep 8 hours a day and still feel terrible if your sleeping rhythm is chaotic, because your brain is not just counting hours, it is running on rhythms. Deep sleep tends to be concentrated earlier in the night, and during sleep the brain's glymphatic systems becomes more active. This is basically the system that cleans your brain and help you remove metabolic waste products. So if your sleep is inconsistent, you're not just staying up late and working, you're messing with the timing of your brain's repair. And to fix this problem, the solution is actually very boring but powerful. Keep your wake up time consistent. Not perfect, but consistent. It can vary with 1 hour, an hour and a half. So the next thing that you have to do is, when you think about sleep, don't just think, oh, did I sleep 8 hours? Think, was I consistent with my sleep today? Did I actually follow the schedule that I have? Let's move on to number 7, which is morning sunlight. And I know you've heard this before, but it's actually very important. Your brain has a master clock called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, and that clock uses light to figure out what time it is. When you get bright outdoor lights early in the morning, you send signals to your brain that says, listen, the day has started. The protocol is honestly pretty simple. Go outside as soon as you wake up, get the sunlight in your eyes, do not stare into the sun directly, just be outside. Alright, number 8, use caffeine like a tool. Use it actually properly, because it's not bad. It is actually amazing. I love coffee. But most people use it terribly. If you've watched some of my other videos, you would know that caffeine works mainly by blocking adenosine receptors. Adenosine is a molecule that builds up while you're awake, and that is what makes you feel sleepy. And caffeine blocks that signal, but it does not delete the adenosine molecule, it just hides it. It makes it not bind to the receptor. So when caffeine wears off, that feeling of tiredness can come back stronger. And the reason for that is that we make mistakes when taking caffeine. And the number one mistake that most people make is they are drinking caffeine immediately after waking up. And if you change that and just let your natural wake up signal rise first, then using caffeine later when alertness would normally dip, you will see much better results. So instead of taking caffeine immediately, try delaying it with 60 to 90 minutes and you will see great results. The number two mistake that most people take is that they drink caffeine too late. So the rule is pretty simple. I would say, to be on the safe side, stop drinking caffeine after 11:30 a.m. This way you are sure that it does not mess with your sleep. Number 9, and the last thing you can do to improve your brain energy, cold exposure. And I know cold showers are annoying. They are terrible. Ice bath, oh my god, don't get me started. But it's actually pretty good for you, because cold exposure activates the sympathetic nervous system, which is your fight or flight mode. And this increases noradrenaline, which is involved in alertness. So this is one of the best ways to get more energy and feel more alert if you're trying to get some work done. And you don't have to go out there and invest in fancy ice bath or ice cubes or anything like that. Just take a cold shower, build the habit gradually, and see how you're gonna feel. So that's it. Those were 9 habits that you can start using today to improve your brain energy.